As seeds of the Master Creator, I believe we have the innate ability to create the world we like to see for ourselves. The creative realm is a space where we deconstruct our minds and challenge our thoughts to transcending conversations. My name is Moses, and I urge you to join me on this journey. Welcome to the Creative Realm Conversation series. Welcome to another episode of the Creative Realm Conversation series. Thank you guys so much for just being on this journey with me. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. We're glad to have you here on this very important episode. And today we are in conversation with women in business. We're in conversation about women in business. And my special guest is an entrepreneur who owns a fashion company. It's called 919 Vrede. She's a highly educated young lady. She has like 5 degrees. She has an associate's degree, 2 advanced associate degrees. She has a bachelor's degree. She just finished her master's degree from Imperial College, which is like the number 1 business school in the world right now. And she also happens to be my annoying little sister. I have the incredible Faith Ibrahim as my guest today. Thank you so much for joining me. Yeah. As we speak about women in business.
Yes.
This episode could have gone either ways. I could have had her and my elder sister here because she's also a woman in business. But with Faith, she's been doing a lot recently that I find to be quite interesting. And she is the last in our family. And there's a level of admiration I have for her to be so young and be so dedicated and passionate about what she wants in her life. There's a level of drive that she has that I really admire. There's a level of work ethic that she has. She's Gen Z with gay sense, and we appreciate it.
Wow.
And we appreciate that. And I know I'm saying Gen Z don't have sense. I beg, don't come from me. I'm not saying that at all. It's just really nice to see a young person that has a good head on their shoulders and they're really building stuff. She started her fashion brand a while ago, and she's always been very passionate about fashion and design and sewing. Ever since we were younger, like this was something I remember you vividly always being about. Mm-hmm. Like she would always like sketch like outfits that she wanted to like wear, and she would like design them when she was younger. She was like obsessed with like Kimora Lee Simmons. She's
yes.
she's like our family's Kimora Lee Simmons. Okay, love Tyra Banks, Naomi Campbell. You always loved fashion and all that jazz. So it's so great to have you to talk about just women in business. And for me, I think the reason why I wanted to have this conversation and specifically with you is because of the stage that you're in right now with your business and trying to pivot to a different scale of what you want to do. And just the conversation I've been having with you about your journey as a woman, I'm like, I don't think as a man I have sat down to consider the different challenges or the different things that women go through when they're trying to build businesses, especially when they're trying to build funding, when trying to raise funding. I think I've been aware that we live in a world that favors men mostly, and there's a lot of misogyny in this world and how, men usually get an upper hand when it comes to businesses. But having my sister, someone that's close to me, go through things and we talk about her experiences and what she goes through has made me want to use my platform to highlight the challenges that women in business go through, especially Black women, especially younger women. I think that they are thriving into spaces that have, it's negative and positive. There are some pros and cons when you're trying to build a business as a woman. And I think that it's important that we highlight this. For me, I want to be a man who uses my platform well. And I know people have their love and hate relationship with niggas on platforms with microphones.
With a microphone.
But I think there's space for those of us who are trying to be good or who are trying to break down these particular gender issues in our community, who want to be an ally, who want to support women, who want to use our platforms to uplift Black women. I think there's a space for us to be here as well, because there are many different voices, but it's the ones that we pay attention to and the ones that use it well that we should highlight. So I think that there's room for other Black men or men in general to use their platform and their podcast or whatever to also highlight these issues and to be a positive voice. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
I mean, this goes without saying, but my first question is, where did you get your passion from? Or what is there one particular thing that inspired you, or one particular event that happened that made you feel this was the field you wanted to go into?
So obviously you mentioned Kimura. So that was one of the biggest icons for me growing up, because a lot of times when it's just me and my mom in the house, she would be watching television and I'd want to go see what she's watching. And it was always like Style Network at that time, or like E. And we would have specific shows that were in rotation for me at that time, were Kimura Lee Simmons' Life in the Fab Lane, and How Do I Look? I think it was Jeannie Mai that was doing it at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, she was like the second host I watched. Like I watched it that long. There was someone before her and then there was her after. So stuff like that just amused me so much, right? And TV was kind of like an escape, you know, at that time growing up. So it's just what you see and you're exposed to, like, you know, being a small kid in Nigeria, but you're like, wow, there's so much more life out there. And I saw Kimura's life specifically and I was like, I want to be her. I want to be exactly like her. Because also as I was young, I was really skinny. I was always like a skinny, tall girl. So a lot of times people would just automatically call me like a model, or like my mom would always call me little Kimura or like Tyra and stuff like that. So I just always associated myself with them. I just felt like, oh wow, these are, you know, beautiful women doing this. I want my life to look like that. And Kimura, like, it was a lifestyle show too. So she would show us, like, we saw her house, we saw the fashion shows, we saw her kids, everything. So I was like, I want my life to look like this. So ideally, because I don't know. It's something I've always had in me. Like when I want something, I want it by any means necessary. And I think also even when the way I grew up, I was kind of like a spoiled daddy's girl. So a lot of times my dad, if I asked for something, he would go out of his way to to get it for me. So I just felt like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I guess that kind of helped me see that, like, whatever I want in this life, I can get it.
Daddy's girl.
Daddy's little girl.
Listen, but that's so powerful when men impact so much love and support towards their daughters. This is what you get.
This is what you get.
You get a young girl that feels that she can take over the world and be anything.
Yeah.
So
it's like, why not?
Fathers, it's so important to be, you know, active in your daughters' lives, in your kids' lives in general, but your daughters' lives. Like, this is what you get. You get a confident young girl who wants to take over the world and be anything because your father has, you know, given you that leverage to be able to, you know, feel that you can.
Absolutely.
So that's beautiful. Yeah. I want to talk about ownership because you started your fashion brand from the ground up.
Yeah.
You built it when you moved to LA to go study for you studied at FIDM.
Yeah.
And you started with an associate's degree first, where you did like you did like 2 advanced associates and then you did a bachelor's degree all in FIDM.
All at FIDM, yeah.
So in FIDM, that was when I remember you, because I was based in LA then when you moved, and I think that's when I remember you starting to build your fashion brand from the ground up.
Yeah.
And then you started networking around. At some point, you had some celebrities wearing your clothes, and we were also happy. You know, you worked with, you know, some prominent people in the industry. You worked with some prominent companies and stuff like that. So when you were in that process, is that when you started thinking about ownership and building this thing from the ground up? And what was your thought process then, and how did education help you with that?
That's quite interesting. So at the time, because I was in a fashion school, I didn't really have general business knowledge. It was predominantly fashion, right? So I didn't really go in. And it's interesting to see in my journey the type of business person I was then and now, because at that time, I don't even think I thought as a business person. I just thought as a creative. And for me, it was a matter of, I wasn't even thinking ownership in that way, the way that I do now. It was more so I just wanted to gain control of my work. And it was because, first off, even like when I was starting to go into the industry, yes, I did some design internships or whatever, or like some design jobs as well. But ideally, I didn't want to draw for anyone. I didn't want to sketch for anyone because I wanted to keep my ideas. And then I also saw, like, because being an artist in general, people are quite sensitive of their work, right? And then you go to certain brands, want to work with certain designers, and they're not necessarily receptive of what you want to do or like the vision that you have, right? So I didn't like that. I wanted control of my aesthetic. Because I developed my voice really early. in regards to the type of fashion and the type of style that I wanted to put out. So for me, it was just, how do I create an avenue where I'm able to gain control of my designs and what I want? So that's why that's why I wanted a brand. Like, that's why I wanted to do it for myself. You know, so that was pretty much it. But obviously in that time, education was helping me in terms of creating my aesthetic, figuring out who I wanted to be as a designer. So it was really interesting also going through all the different programs, because in the beginning it was more tailoring me to be the designer that I wanted to be. And then when it got more into like international manufacturing, product development and stuff, it was steering me towards like, okay, what are your values as well? You know, so that is where I started learning about sustainability and like working with certain companies and gaining some level of recognition and stuff. So it was just about me becoming first, and then the doing and the why and all of that found its way.
That's beautiful. How would you describe your fashion brand to someone?
It's very interesting to ask that now, because we're at a point of a very huge pivot and like a relaunch as well, because who we were in Los Angeles is completely different from who we're becoming in London. So initially, if you would ask me before, I would have just said, oh, we're a contemporary menswear brand, right? Because it started off as menswear. So now we're diversifying into menswear and women's wear and going like really heavy in sustainability. So I will say it's a sustainable fashion brand that has technology as well, because we're incorporating really interesting modern tech to I guess have stamps of credibility and for transparency reasons and traceability as well. So in a nutshell, I will say it's borderline a fashion tech company, but it's also like a green tech company as well, because we have 3 umbrellas: fashion one, which is contemporary, timeless, chic. And then we have the sustainability aspect where we're using regenerative cotton. So it goes into farming in some shape or form as well. And then we have the tech. So we're using blockchain and we're using just really cool stuff that's about to be launched.
Look at the brains in the family. This is the one. These are Bill Gates.
Amen. Amen.
Come on, our mogul. So you talked about sustainability, and I know that's very important to you.
Yes.
How do you think it's possible to be able to build a fashion brand like that, and you're not going into like the fast fashion realm and going into how do you you know persevere in building something like that because of the challenges I know that you might face?
And guys, I'll say it's so interesting he's asking me this question, because he knows how many times I just come back home and I like brain dump on him regarding like fast fashion and all of that stuff. So obviously that's a more prevalent route that we see. And the thing is, I have almost a decade's long of experience in the fashion industry. So I worked within design, I worked within production, product development. And for me, within that corporate sector, my favorite parts were product development and production, because I got to see the behind the scenes of what the fashion industry looked like. And I'm telling you, it's a hot mess. It is a hot mess. And I just got to see it, and I was like, it really, like, all that glitters is not gold at all. And I won't even say it's just for like fast fashion. Even within some of your favorite brands, I'm not going to mention, but even some of that too, when you do, you know, the due diligence and do more digging in, you'd be shocked to see what comes out, right? And fast fashion it's so morally wrong in so many ways. I understand, obviously, we all still shop it. Like, I'm guilty of having, you know, some Zara situations in my closet or whatever. But it's such a deeply rooted and bad system, because there's a lot of exploitation that goes on, you know, third world countries. Like, I'm just, you know, it's insane. It's insane. And for me, it goes, I guess also because I'm from a third world country, I understand what exploitation looks like. I understand what it means to kind of be a victim. So why would I want to be that thing that I don't like? You know? So that's definitely one aspect of it. And then number two, just understanding good quality. Like, when you get to a point where you're able to buy good quality clothes, or even immerse yourself in the behind the scenes, or you learn how to sew by yourself, and you take time and understand precision and whatnot, it's like, I love good quality and I want good quality. So I want people to wear good quality from my hands, you know? So I think that's pretty much some of it. So it's values, because I don't want fashion to be like a vehicle for people not to earn a good living. You know, but that's pretty much what the big brands do to a lot of people. So,
and I think there's a lot of it that is very keen on how we are so, as our generation, we're very, very on climate change.
Yes.
And, you know, saving our planet.
Yes.
And I think that sustainability and like it's such a great way to go because there's a lot of that is involved in, you know, I think that's,
And when you're building from the ground up, one thing I will say that's really important is if you take the sustainability route, you have more control and it makes you way more efficient. Because one thing that I'll never forget, when I was in fashion school, there was a entrepreneur that came in to talk to us and he said sustainability is efficiency. Really and truly, like it doesn't have to be this like grandiose way of doing things. It could be in the long term cutting costs for you because you're doing things in a more efficient manner. Like saving water automatically is supposed to save you money in the manufacturing process. When you think saving energy is saving you money, you know, so when you think about it from a monetary standpoint, if that's what you're primarily driven by, then you should want to go towards sustainability. You know what I mean? I do understand that there's some greener solutions that are, you know, a bit more expensive short term, but long term you will reap the benefits. So
you spoke about how your fashion brand is in a transitional phase right now, moving from one place to another. How would you say location and business? What do you think? What do you think the role of location plays in building a business?
A huge amount, a whole lot, I will say, because it's interesting. I was filming a TikTok earlier today and trying to like compare my life and my business, how it's transformed from the US and in London now. So definitely one thing I will say, obviously, when it comes to high quality fashion, when it comes to just fashion and the reputation it's in itself, Europe is a huge contender. Like that's the place you want to be, right? So definitely I knew I always wanted to end up in Europe. I didn't know where, but I'm glad that I found myself in London. So that's one. And then even the way people dress, like the masses, it's completely different. Like in LA, the thing is, America, you look at it from like a market size standpoint and it's huge, right? But when you think about the fashionable cities, it's so small. Because what do you think about New York and California? And California, I wouldn't even say like people in Northern California dress well. We're looking at Southern California. So that's a smaller percentage already.
Like the beach.
Yeah, but but that's not even what I do. Like obviously, if you want to do a swimwear brand or something more lax, that's why streetwear prevails well in Los Angeles. Because people want to be in sweats and a t-shirt most of the time, right? So you have to look at it from the style that you want to put out, the environment that reflects that. Like when I think of London, like I come outside like just literally on a commute, maybe even going to like a Pilates class or just like going to the bank or something. And I'm inspired. I'm so inspired because you look at the day-to-day people and how they step out. I'm like, y'all are my customers for real. You know what I mean? So that plays a huge part. One. And then secondly, the ecosystem, because I'm coming from a more startup, you know, route, more like after going to business school. So things have really changed in the way that I think. And the atmosphere and the climate in regards to how much innovation is in London. It's a small, like tighter knit community and niche as well. So it's really nice to find your tribe easily, find people that want to help you and find people that are on that same wavelength as you. In Los Angeles, I was more in the industry. So it was very much about who was wearing my clothes, right? And it wasn't a lot of emphasis on the clothes itself. But then in London, I see a shift where it's about the clothes before it's about the person wearing the clothes.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to shift gears a bit because you are somewhat of a startup organization. So you're in a space where it's about building, getting funding, X, Y, and Z, so you can grow it and even, you know, go to a bigger. So, and when it comes to this, there's a lot of networking that has to do. There's a lot of traveling, being a part of conferences, meeting people. And as a woman in business, I want to ask, how have men helped or made your experience difficult?
I'll say I've had a 50-50 experience, which I'm really grateful for because I've had men that have advocated for me to get into certain rooms, to help me with their expertise. You know, I have incredible men on my board of like my advisory board, you know, who have just seen like the fire in me and they want to pour into that, which is amazing. You know, because at the end of the day, like in terms of like funding or any opportunities, really a lot of opportunities in life, the men are there first and foremost, right? So I've had men in that sense, one. And then the second part is obviously the part where the men have an ulterior motive. And it's the truth. And it's interesting because it's funny. I went on TikTok and I made a little video there. And I was like, I see a lot of videos of women nowadays. Because obviously everyone talks about almost everything now on social media, right? So I've seen videos where a lot of women come and they talk about how to climb the corporate ladder, how to even form like your rapport with men to be able to climb that corporate ladder. We've seen a lot of male-centered content, right? And stuff, but I don't see a lot of it in business, right? And I don't know why. I'm like, okay, where are the women entrepreneurs? Like, where are you guys at? Like, I need some advice. I need to understand, like, what is it, you know, especially if you're a single woman as well, you know, and they want to maybe hit on you or this and that. And then at this point, I'm like, do I start wearing a wedding ring or so? Like, you know, it's so much that you have to go through.
You know, it's that part of the conversation that made me feel like, okay, wait, we need to have a conversation. So because of our relationship as brother and sister, she feels quite comfortable to tell me a lot of stuff. So she's out there networking, going to conferences and meeting, and then men are like doing the most. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is a place for women to build. Why are you hitting on them? Why are you coming there and making them uncomfortable? They are here to just network, to see who can help them build. They're just here to follow their passions. Like, this should be a safe space for them. You shouldn't be there as a man trying to hit on them. Like, you shouldn't be there as a man trying to do the most. Like, literally.
There's
you shouldn't
predators
be there as a predator where you're making women feel uncomfortable to come to these spaces when they're just trying to build and network. So that's my issue sometimes with my gender. Is that I think that we don't know place and time to do things. And sometimes it's also unnecessary.
Absolutely.
And you need to allow women to be able to be in spaces where they feel safe enough and comfortable enough to be able to do exactly what they want to do there and leave without feeling uncomfortable.
And it's interesting because a lot of times, like, thank God for maturity, obviously, and, you know, also a safe community that I have as well. Because sometimes, you know, when I had my first experiences, it was just a matter of going back to my room and just crying and being like, was it me? What did I do? You know, because a lot of times, even when we talk about like situations where women are taken advantage of, is always, what was she wearing? What did she do? It's always pointed back at the woman, right? Because a lot of times we police women and we're not policing men in the same way, like to cut down their desires, to cut down their behaviors, to be like, to be more responsible, right? There's so much pressure on females to always be more.
And not on the man's behavior.
Exactly. It's always like, oh, don't do too much. Dim your own lights to make them more comfortable. And it's like, are you kidding me?
No.
So it's a huge, like, you know, discourse that needs to happen in regards to how men are trained from the jump, how boys are trained from the jump, because why should I be feeling uncomfortable in a space where you're made to thrive and made to, you know, pry on me and all of that. So it's really interesting. But I'm glad, obviously, as I said before, I've had men that have been incredibly instrumental in my journey. But then obviously there's gonna be the other side, right? So
to go deeper into the conversation now, let us talk about how your experiences are also altered because you're a Black woman. So
you had to go there.
So my question is, which I already know the answer to, but do you think Black women deal with more challenges while trying to build their businesses?
100%. 100%. Even when it comes to institutionalized funding, when it comes to like trying to, and thank God, I'm not even trying to raise VC. I'm not trying to raise venture capital funding, none of that, right? But so like if I were to be doing that, I'm on like the 0.1% or something of that sort, right? Because women generally already, you know, are more disadvantaged when it comes to things like that. So then think about a woman of color. It's completely different. It's
incredibly layered.
It's incredibly layered. It's way more challenging. And a lot of eyes are on you as well. So one thing I will say now is if you are a woman of color within the business space, please understand that, yes, the pressure on you is more. And I sympathize with that because I get it. But then that should also inspire you to make sure that as you're moving, more Black women are coming behind you. So it's a matter of making sure that you set a great example, because I love this so much. There was this entrepreneur, I was watching what she was saying, Fisayo from Kai Collective in London. And she was saying something about something that happened, I think, with a building she wanted to acquire for her office. And the automatic response for her, I think, after it didn't pan out, was the fact that she was like, I just hope that they don't negate another Black woman that wants to get something like this or something like that. And I love that she had that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but I love that she had that in mind, because for me, a lot of times too, it's like I'm going in knowing that I'm not just representing myself. I'm representing women and an entire race, an entire category that on a normal day does not get this level of exposure, does not get this level of experience. So I want to be like an example for them to say, okay, I know a Black woman that da-da-da-da-da. So if another Black woman is applying for this or trying to get this, they should be awarded the same opportunities as well. So it's being a good example. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, it's also sad that we have to carry that burden
It's sad,
on some level,
yes.
but we have to do for our community so that doors are not closed behind us, and that people can able to like push through doors. I think a good example of someone who does that, from what I can see, is Issa Rae. I think Issa Rae carries people along. She breaks down barriers. She's getting into spaces that we haven't seen a Black woman really get into in her industry. Like she's really on her mogul shit. And I really, it really inspiring.
Serial entrepreneur.
She's building it in Black spaces, in Black community. Even her new restaurant, like it's still such a community thing, and I really appreciate that the way she navigates herself. I was going to ask, what role do you think purpose plays in your business?
Everything. Every single thing. For me, a lot of times, and I get a lot of people that ask me, like maybe from a mentorship standpoint, or just like, oh, can I just get like advice or something? And the first question I ask everybody till today is why? What is your why? Because I'm telling you, it's not easy. You're going, like someone said, you're becoming a founder, and a solo founder at that. I'm a solo founder, so I have no co-founders, nobody to lean on, nobody to share the weight with, right? So there's so much to carry, and it's like, someone said this at a conference I went to. It's like you're shooting yourself in the ass like multiple times, and you keep on shooting yourself. That's literally what being a founder is like, a solo founder at that. So I'm saying that, excuse my language, but I'm saying that to emphasize that it's a very difficult journey. It's so difficult. Like, honestly, your emotional intelligence will even do you way more than your actual, like, maybe like business knowledge for a lot of it, like a huge chunk of it. I'm not saying the other parts are not important, but the emotional side is going to be like way more helpful. So purpose is really huge, because you have to keep on reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing, so you can pick yourself up every day. I mean, you're choosing a path where you don't have a detailed salary, like a specified salary, monthly, that like a monthly income. Bro, you're choosing uncertainty over certainty. You're choosing lack of structure. You're choosing so much that really would put you at a disadvantage if all goes, down. So purpose is the only way.
What about being a Christian? How do you navigate not crossing your door that'll make you compromise yourself?
Hey.
How do you play the game but still sleep well at night?
My dear, when I tell you, I think it's really about also. So it's interesting, because it was a conference I went to, and I loved it. It was a Christian conference, and it was about entrepreneurs navigating, or just business people in general, even corporate people, because as a Christian, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in the corporate world, you're going to be in situations where you're like compromising your values is going to be put, served to you on a tray. So it's beyond even being an entrepreneur. It's everybody in general.
It's everyone.
But obviously, I will say it's a guiding light for me. I'm really grateful that I've been able to have as much control as I have been able to, but that's not by my strength. You know, I pray about every single thing. I pray about so much, but I do understand also as a Christian what I have access to in this earth. So even if I'm going a way that will be slower, I'd rather take it because I'm reminded of what God has promised me. You know, in the beginning, in the first and foremost, it says, "Be fruitful and multiply." So you're trying to tell me that I'm not going to multiply. You're trying to tell me that I won't get. Are you kidding me? A child of God?
Come on now. Come on now.
The king that owns everything. No. So I have that at the back of my mind. So I understand that, you know what, even if it's not going to go this way, God will make another way. God will make another, to the point that I don't even deal with, I don't even deal with disappointments. It doesn't even shake me anymore. Like when I don't get things that I really want, I'm like, you know what, it's fine. It's fine. But I'm also grateful too that situations where I have to compromise my values, they don't find me as much.
That's great.
Because I believe that there's a covering. There's a covering, and I just pray to God that it remains. Every day I pray to God that it remains, because again, there's human flesh. You know, no one's perfect. You're going to be tempted with certain things, but I just pray that God continues to shield me so that I don't even, those things are not even put in front of me, you know? And again, it goes back to even your circle, what you're surrounded by, but also the internal work that you do, because a lot of times, and one thing I do live by a lot is work on your art in the same way or even more. No, work on your heart in the way that you work on your art. You know, like you're so, you know, pressed on being a better artist, a better designer, a better business person. What about your heart? You know, you have to deal with your heart posture. You have to deal with your values. That's why I said everything relies on purpose. You know, so think about on the why. So that really shapes you in terms of who you want to be. And there's a lot of sacrifices, because you're going to feel left out, or you're going to feel like, oh, people are going faster than me and this and that. But as long as you are grounded in the word of God and you know the promise that he has on your life, I'm telling you, all of these things, they won't faze you as much by his grace.
Amen. Amen. I think the last question I'll ask you is, what advice would you give to specifically young Black women in business?
I think in general, the biggest word that encompasses my journey is patience. And I live off of a Bible verse that says, "Let patience have its perfect work." There's a reason why they said patience and perfect in the same sentence. Right? And it's something that you just have to, by default, know how to like work through. Because I'm telling you, you know how many days I'm applying every day. I'm telling you guys, I have deadlines and this and that and that. It takes like 10 applications to get 3 responses or one response. You know what I mean? So patience, and definitely when it comes to the Black women, you know, understanding that you're leading by example. I don't know what else I can say other than patience, I swear, because that's been the biggest thing for me. It sums up a lot. But, you know, it's unfortunate that we have to work twice as hard. But like, understand that you're capable. That's what I was going to say. Understand that you're capable. For me, I don't look at it as a disadvantage that I have to work hard or harder. I look at it as a blessing. It's something I pull from my, like, you know, from my pocket, and I'm like, bet. I got it. I got it, you know? And it's interesting because one of the pastor I listened to, Tori Roberts, he says, be so obsessed with your calling, be so obsessed with like the thing that you know that God has planted you on this earth to do, that like outside things don't shake you as much. External is not as important as internal.
Come on.
So that's why I always talk about the internal and the heart posture, the work that you're doing on the inside, because that all is so much more important than how much funding you're trying to raise and this and that and da-da-da-da-da. So patience, and don't lose your values. Patience and don't lose your values. Cultivate your values early, because it'll really help throughout the journey.
That's beautiful. Those are really great tools and great advice. I think the only thing I'll add to that is that we come from such a beautiful people that have so much strength.
Exactly.
Like our people have dealt with so much that
Yeah.
we have the ability to do more and more. Like
Resilience,
look at how far
yeah.
we've come as Black people in general. And you know, if you're the person of faith, you know that through Christ you can do all things that strengthens
Absolutely.
you. And God is not going to give you more than what you can handle. So you need to
Absolutely.
lean into that, lean
Yeah.
into the strength, know that there's a destiny that's set before you, and that you have the ability and everything that you need to pass through all the challenges that you go through. Yeah, so I think I'll call it on that. It's been such an
Thank
honor
you for having
speaking
me.
to my little annoying sister.
It's
who
like
is-
we're going to the same
it
house
was-
from here,
I
guys.
know,
So
it's brilliant, and like our future mogul out there. So it's been such an honor and a blessing to have you.
thank you.
So thank you very much for coming. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of The Creative Realm. And I'll catch you guys at the next episode. Yeah.